Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we are looking at player props for Tuesday in the NBA Cup as we move along in this NBA season. Also have best bets up in a separate episode, so want to make sure to subscribe to that page. Don't miss any of the content we're bringing forward. Both videos each and every weekday this NBA season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first NBA player prop here for Tuesday night.
Yeah, I'll fade Brandon Ingram. Under 37.5 points, rebounds, and assists. With the Pelicans plus 12 here at Dallas. We don't know necessarily if Luka's going to play, but either way, this is a Dallas team kind of desperate to get right. And they definitely responded to that embarrassing loss at Utah last week, right, with a 95 defensive rating against the Spurs. Then they turn around and beat OKC without Luka. PJ Washington, maybe the best game of his career. And now he's going to be throwing his defensive weight around against Ingram. We also got Najee Marshall in a little bit of a revenge spot against the former teammate. And if Luka's out, we get Quentin Grimes in the starting lineup. So some pretty solid defensive wings for the Mavs. Just a much tougher matchup than Ingram's had recently against the Jokic-less Nuggets, against the Lakers, who he also is going to get up for every time, the team that let him go. But against solid defenses in this number one role, because we know the Pelicans are down a ton of guys. We know Ingram's probably looking at 30% usage. That's why this number is as high as it is. But against good defenses, OKC, Orlando, Cleveland, he's averaged just 27 PRA a game. A lot of those, two of the three of those were pretty much blowouts. Again, Pels are plus 12 here. Dallas gonna really look for all the points it can get to overcome the initial loss to the Warriors in the NBA Cup here. And Dallas's defense is on that level. Like, they hadn't necessarily started with the same urgency that they finished in the playoffs with, right? But after the trade, we know they were fantastic with PJ in there with the dual bigs. And they're still, despite the kind of rocky start, fourth in opponents' field goal percentage outside of 15 feet. Their issue has been giving up penetration to guards and whatnot. But Ingram is a guy who's notably not great getting to the line, getting to the rim. He's going to try to beat you in the mid-range. And as far as the peripheral stats, like only 9.2 rebound chances, fifth on the team in this last five here with the 8 guys out. Only 11 potential assists, getting 7 assists off those. So there's not a lot of margin for error there in terms of guys hitting passes. That he's thrown 20 fewer passes than Brandon Boston, who's been the main initiator for the Pels, these extremely shorthanded Pels. And even didn't go anywhere near this number against the pre-trade Mavs in January, just 12-5-5 in the last matchup with Maxi Kleber and Tim Hardaway Jr. in the starting lineup. So just a much better Mavs defense at this point. And I don't think he's like a true number one who can just dominate with this type of usage in every matchup.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think anybody does. I think that's why Brandon Ingram is still on the Pelicans, is because all 29 other teams in the league were like, what do you want us to do with this guy for that amount of money? Where do we put him? How do we fit him into an offense? It's too clunky. He's more willing to shoot threes this year, kind of, than he was last year, but still not exactly the most willing 3-point shooter. That's just going to be what it is. If you're just going to be a 2-point shooter that's that inefficient and takes the air out of the ball like that, it's going to be tough to play around you. I think the lack of options with teammates the lineup that is out for the Pelicans is a very good basketball team, like without Brandon Ingram, right? Like CJ, DJ Murray, like Zion, Herb, that's a starting four of five that is like a playoff team for sure. But without all of them, BI is just focused. All the focus is on him. And this Mavs defense is so versatile. They're like anywhere from 10th to 15th defending like everything, literally everything, whether it's the paint or out here or over there or this play type or whatever. They can just sort of do things versatily with J Kidd on defense, the way that he plays, and having two bigs like Gafford and Lively really opens that up for you. So let me go to another big. Let me take Papa Al. I don't really think we've talked about him much this season. We were targeting him all the time last year in these moments where we were like, we can bank on him not playing, so we'll fade him, or we can bank on him being needed, so we'll back him. And I'm banking on him being needed against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen for Cleveland. So I'm taking the PRA at 16.5. And I think this should be like 17, 18.5. So there's a little bit of an edge, enough for me to take it. There's a couple of things. I mean, Cleveland runs two bigs, so you need to have Al Horford in there. You don't really have two bigs right now. I don't know if they're necessarily going to start like Keita alongside Horford, but Horford's going to be out there. And those minutes should stay a little bit higher, between about 28, 30 minutes is where I would put him which is crucial to know, because if Al is going to play that amount of time, then you can give him a little bit of bump in his props. The other aspect of needing Al is the ability to draw those guys out, right? Keita cannot shoot from deep. Al obviously can. So having him on the floor at least allows you to pull one of Mobley or Allen from the basket, probably Mobley, with Allen most likely staying closer and getting those boards. Might be a good look for Allen rebounds as I'm talking out loud and working through this with you. But for Al, and looking at the minutes, like I said, 26 to 32 minutes this year. He's done it 9 times. He's over in 6 of those games, averaging about 19 PRA in that time frame. If you look at last year, in this same situation without KP playing that amount of minutes, and if you bump this up to 28 to 30 minutes, it's a little bit better. But I thought 26 is a nice floor. I want to be a little bit conservative. 9 of 12 games last year that he went over, averaging 21 PRA. So the minutes, obviously, I mean, like anybody else in the league, are you playing because you can't get points from the bench or any other stat? But he's doing that in a good matchup. I love the minutes for him. The spot up stuff should really be there. Pulling them from the floor is important. They are giving up about 58% field goal percentage on spot up shooters. So not the worst in the league by any imagination, but still, about middle of the pack for them. And this is a weak point, is allowing the spot up stuff.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's just a big game. Obviously, Al Horford coming off 2 days rest. He's probably going to get 30 plus minutes. I mean, when they've thrown him out there recently, he has been around 30 minutes, only 26 against Atlanta in the NBA Cup opener, and falls short of this. But like, you want to fade him against like an Atlanta, an Indiana, Charlotte, because it's just up and down, right? And he's old. The Cavs are playing faster, but they're big, like you said, and no Porzingis. I don't know how much Missoula's going to trust Keita in this spot. I mean, he's going to have to match up with his bulk, but he's also going to have to play Horford at the 4 and try to match up with these Cavs. So I think he'll be out there and all over the floor like he was in the playoffs.
I'm picturing like Joe Mazzulla having Keita on the floor and needing another big, looking at his bench, seeing Luke Cornett and going, Al, actually just go back in, Al. Just getting Al back on the floor instead.
Yes. Great call. Luke Cornett thrown around like a rag doll by Jared Allen. So let's go back to that OKC game. I'll take Chris Paul over 9.5 points, which is minus 110 at MGM, better price than other books. Not going to add the assists. I don't hate anybody for doing that, but I'm not going to trust his teammates to hit any shots in this spot. OKC will kind of leave the corners open, as you mentioned, especially with this small ball lineup that's going to be swarming and kind of, having to pack the paint because they don't have that rim protector with Chet out. But with Wemby out, I think CP3 is definitely going to have to take on a higher scoring load here. He's kind of been doing that as the season progressed. And if you look at who he scores against, it's usually against better teams. Like, he's actually gone double digits in 9 of his last 12. And the exceptions were literally the dregs of the league, right? Utah, Washington, and Portland before Portland got going a little bit here. But you identified he's willing to pull it from 3. He's hit at least 2 threes in 8 straight against these winning teams, usually attempting 5 to 7. And against OKC, probably should be the same. He went 14-9 at their building in October on a back-to-back, or was that the front end of a back-to-back? Either way, it was a short rest spot. This is 2 days off since Saturday, since he played his first game without Vic, and had a 20% usage rate, got to 11 points in just 25 minutes at Dallas. And, he has at this point a 135 offensive rating at home, but hasn't been pulling a ton, only 14% usage. So you elevate that a little bit. You factor in OKC being this really small lineup that is probably just going to switch all pick and rolls, probably going to struggle to keep CP out of his spots in the mid range because they don't have that rim protector. I think he'll be able to get double-digit points and kind of carry the load for a shorthanded Spurs team. I mean, I wouldn't say carry the load. He's past that point in his career, but we're talking about 10 points here. I'm just saying, like, step up offensively.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good game against them last time, and I can understand that. I don't know how much of his shooting has been a result of the defense collapsing on Wemby or not. I really don't, but I know he's willing to shoot, and I know that he's willing to try to keep his team in the game when he's out there. So yeah, I like the points more than the assists. Although we'll basically see who's out there as when it's him and Vassell, and like that's it. Like, yeah, he's going to be a shooter that they need. Stephon Castle, not really it. Had a few good shooting games, but I like Chris Paul with the points when he's playing alongside Castle as well, who still seems to be starting. So that's a little bit better of a play with that in mind. But let me close it out here with Donnie Mitchell. I'm going to get chalky here and be like, hey, Donovan Mitchell is going to score a lot of points against the Celtics. Something that he's done a ton. So 27.5 is about where I'd take it. That's that. I can't see much more. I thought that I might be able to get it at 26.5 and I would have loved it, but I'm still willing at 27.5 if you get a good enough price on it. Over this number in 7 of 8, dating back to 2021 against the Celtics. This is a team he loves to play against. I'm not even including the playoffs in there where he went over in pretty much every game in the playoff as well. So like a very nice hit rate if you include the postseason. And there's no reason to think that he's not going to play the 34-ish, 35 minutes that we've seen him play when they're in games that they're trying to win and not blowing teams out by 30, which they've done a handful of times this year. But it's really just comes down to this is the one spot that the Celtics are just willing to give up almost, by choice, right? They're not going to double you. They're not going to give up assists. They're not going to give up open threes. They're not going to allow the ball to move around the perimeter seamlessly. And they're not really going to let you get too much in transition. But I still think Donnie and company are going to be looking to get out and push the pace a bit with this team. I do like points in this game, to be honest with you. But as the ball handler in the pick and roll, that's where they give up the points. 23rd in limiting points per game to whomever is running that position as the ball handler. And if you look at like the game log, it's wild. But like if you look at guys that are just like shooters, like you look at like the catch and shoot guys that rely so much on ball handlers passing them the ball, those dudes do nothing. If you look at the game log, but if you look at the guys like a Cam Thomas or a Dennis Schroeder, even on the same team, then you look at the Hornets games with Ball and Man, both of those dudes going off, both playing the exact same way. 31 points for Cam, 20 for Schroeder. Curry lit him up for 27. Ball had 36. Like I said, Man had 23 in the same game that Ball had 31 the next game. Lillard's had 33. So if you're a good shooting guard and you can also take one step in and get into the lane, where the Celtics have a big reason for this is the Celtics have been very porous down low this season, in the bottom 10 in terms of limiting paint points, both right next to the basket and that extended paint as well. The drop defense, not quite what it is if all you have is Al Horford and sort of Neemias Queta, I suppose. So that's going to allow Donnie, I believe, to get to the rim a ton as well. I don't think he's going to be looking to pass. There's no reason to pass. I think he loves the idea of playing the Celtics because that's not how you succeed against them, is trying to find open shooters. They're not going to be open. If you can beat your man one-on-one, you can get 30 points against the C's.
Yeah, the worry here is that in the playoffs, it was the Donnie Mitchell show because Garland wasn't healthy, and that didn't work. But at the same time, like, I do think, he has multiple paths to score a lot here. I do like points in this one. I like points early. I would say 6.5 points in the first quarter is a look for Donnie as well. Even money there. He averages 8.3 this season. He has 9, 11, and 12 his last 3 regular season in the first against the Celtics, and that's without playing the entire first quarter. I'm not sure what the rotation will be for Atkinson, but maybe they just try to, come out early, come out on fire, as we know with the best bets. I like the over in the first quarter in general. It's either going to be Donnie or Garland attacking this interior with Celtics defense, which has not been that great lately. And we don't know if Drew Holiday with the knee is super 100% to be a stopper. Jaylen Brown has not posted great defensive numbers yet. So we'll see if the Celtics defense wakes up for this matchup, but it might take a little while. It might not come in the first quarter.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me as well. But that's all the time we have for you in Play It Props. Also got those best bets up in a separate episode. So make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along all season with us. And until we see you next, happy betting.